Picture this. You're cruising down a quiet, rolling country road in Georgia, and suddenly, out of nowhere, you're face to face with this massive, Stonehenge-looking structure, and it's covered in cryptic instructions for humanity. For over 40 years, this bizarre, almost sci-fi mystery just sat quietly in a field. So today, we're diving into this explainer to unpack the fascinating, deeply controversial, and ultimately explosive story of the Georgia Guidestones. We're going to figure out where they came from, exactly what they said, and why they sparked such an intense cultural firestorm.
Visionary blueprint or sinister plot? Right from the start, that was the big question hanging over the whole site. From the very moment these giant granite slabs were unveiled, they were a total lightning rod. I mean, were they just the eccentric musings of some humanitarian trying to save us from ourselves? Or were they something way darker, like a literal manifesto from a shadowy elite? To figure out how a stationary pile of rocks could get people so riled up, we have to start with the facts of their origin.
And the physical facts are just as weird as the theories, to be honest. So the monument goes up in Elbert County, Georgia, back in 1980. We're talking 4 huge upright stones and a central capstone. But here is where the mystery really kicks in: the funding. The whole thing was paid for by an anonymous sponsor using the name R.C. Christian. Obviously a pseudonym, right? His real identity was completely locked down by a local law firm that managed the project. They created this absolute vault of institutional secrecy from day one, and that secrecy is really what set the stage for everything that happened next.
Now that brings us to the first major clue, which is the actual text carved into the granite. There were 10 incredibly specific cryptic guidelines for humanity translated into 8 different languages. People almost immediately started calling them the 10 Commandments of the New World, or the 10 Commandments of Tomorrow. But it wasn't just the sheer scale of the carving that caught everyone's attention. It was the actual literal instructions they were giving us. This right here was the ultimate flashpoint. Carved right into the stone: maintain humanity under 500 million in perpetual balance with nature. I mean, just stop and think about that for a second. If you only look at the back half of that sentence, in perpetual balance with nature, it sounds kind of nice, almost reasonable. But when you look at the first half, the implications are completely jarring. 500 million. Let's put that staggering number into perspective. When these stones were put up in 1980, the global population was already well past 4 billion. Today, we're at over 8 billion. So calling for humanity to be maintained under 500 million, that's an unimaginable reduction. This wasn't some gentle reminder to, recycle your plastics. It was a proposed population cap that would literally require the elimination of the vast majority of humans on Earth. So yeah, it's pretty easy to see why that specific number sent shivers down a lot of spines. The rest of the guidelines were this weird mix of philosophical ideas and some pretty unsettling biological commands. They told humanity to guide reproduction wisely, improving fitness and diversity, alongside more abstract stuff about valuing language, honor, truth, and balance. Now, depending on who you ask, you get totally different reactions. To some folks, these were just rational survival tips for a post-apocalyptic world, a blueprint for restarting society from scratch. But to others, phrases like guide reproduction wisely sounded way too much like eugenics, hinting at a terrifying level of total social control. But honestly, the words were only half the story. The public's anxiety went into overdrive when they realized exactly how these stones were built. It was a total architectural enigma. This was not some DIY garden project slapped together on a Sunday afternoon. It was a massive, permanent installation engineered with a level of precision that absolutely baffled the people looking at it. That precision tells us the anonymous donor was incredibly serious about this. The stones were actually arranged in a complex astronomical alignment. They tracked the sun's annual path, they marked the celestial poles. It's like a giant granite astronomical clock. And on top of that, the structure was explicitly designed to withstand the collapse of civilization. It was meant to survive the ravages of time, way after our modern society might be gone. So whoever R.C. Christian was, they clearly had deep pockets to carve tons of granite and an obsessive commitment to making sure this message outlived us all.
Because you have this bizarre combo of doomsday architecture and philosophical rules, people essentially split into 2 totally different camps. On one side, you have the manual for survival theory. This is the idea that the monument was a benevolent, if maybe slightly eccentric, effort to give a future decimated human race a head start. On the flip side, you have the New World Order manifesto camp. Critics in this group argued that the extreme secrecy, the focus on depopulating the Earth, and the talk of controlling reproduction were literal physical proof of a hidden agenda just waiting to be unleashed by global elites.
Now, for a couple of decades, the site was really just a roadside oddity, a place for curious tourists and skeptics to stop and take pictures. But as we all know, technology changed how we process information. When this physical mystery collided with modern internet paranoia, it stopped being a quirky landmark and morphed into a massive, explosive target. As the internet blew up, so did theories about a looming Great Reset. Basically, this is a popular theory suggesting a hidden global elite is trying to orchestrate total social and economic control. Inside that digital echo chamber, the Guidestones weren't just a weird local curiosity anymore. They became this intensely polarizing global symbol. Online forums dissected literally every inch of the rock. The site was repeatedly vandalized, spray-painted with accusations of Satanism and globalism. The stones basically became a blank canvas for the internet's deepest anxieties. And then things escalated. After 40 years of standing peacefully in that field, the digital frenzy spilled over into the real world in a very violent way. In July 2022, an unknown person detonated an explosive device right at the site, totally blowing apart one of the massive upright slabs. Just days later, because the blast made the whole structure incredibly unsafe and unstable, local authorities had to bring in heavy machinery and tear the rest of it down. In the blink of an eye, this decades-old mystery was literally reduced to a pile of rubble. But here is the absolute kicker. Destroying the stones didn't destroy the mystery. Not even close. Removing the physical monument just left behind an enduring shadow that might actually be stronger than the granite itself. For a lot of people, demolishing the stones didn't erase a problem, it actually validated their darkest theories. It completely cemented the Guidestones' place in modern internet mythology. And the cultural reaction to that pile of rubble was just as divided as the reactions to the stones themselves. For the folks who genuinely feared the monument and saw it as a threat, its destruction was a massive win, a triumph over an encroaching globalist agenda. But for the people who were just fascinated by the weirdness of it all, the demolition was just a huge bummer. It was mourned as a lost opportunity to study a genuinely unique, albeit totally bizarre piece of modern American history. Our source material hits the nail on the head with its takeaway, calling the Guidestones a powerful reminder of how human anxiety can shape our landscape. Think about it. We live in an age of constant information overload, and somehow a simple stone monument out in a field became the ultimate focal point for our deepest, most primal fears about control, the future, and our own survival. It's wild proof that symbols have immense power, enough power to trigger real-world violent reactions that literally erase them from the map. So, I'll leave you with this final thought. Whether the Georgia Guidestones were the sincere work of a philosopher trying to save the world, or just a giant piece of architectural trolling designed to get under our skin, they proved one undeniable truth. When we leave a message for the future, who truly decides what it means? The person who wrote it, or the anxieties of the people who eventually read it? Keep questioning what you see out there, and thanks for exploring this mystery with me.